On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history.
Though President-elect Trump has said he will move swiftly to implement mass deportation.
So President-elect Trump ran on a crackdown.
Can Canada cope with the flood of displaced immigrants? Or will it feel the wrath of Trump's policies firsthand? Here is what we are dealing with. Trump's proposed mass deportation are not just headlines anymore. They are set in stone. Known for his hardline stance on immigration, has confirmed that starting on January 20th, 2025, he will begin deporting millions of undocumented immigrants who are currently residing in the US. These are not just threats to rile up the media. These are plans with a real starting date, and their ramification could reshape the entire North America's landscape. Now, you might be thinking, is this going to affect Canada? And you would be right to ask that. After all, Canada and the US share the world's longest undefended border. This is not just a localized issue. This is something that could change the future of immigration, economics, and politics in both countries. So, let's dive into why Trump's mass deportation plan could hit Canada like a freight train, and whether Canada is ready for the storm that's coming. The US mass deportation plan. To understand the impact, let's first break down the numbers behind Trump's plan. We are talking about mass deportations of 11 to 12 million undocumented immigrants. 11 million does not sound like much when you read it, but in reality, it's an entire population the size of a major country. 11 million undocumented people spread across multiple industries such as agriculture, construction, and hospitality will be uprooted and sent back to their countries of origin. If you're curious, the agricultural sector alone relies on these undocumented workers to the tune of about 13% of the workforce in the United States. And the construction industry is not far behind, with 14% of their labor force is undocumented. That's millions of workers gone. And you might think, oh, they will just deport them and that's it. Problem solved, right? Wrong. $1 trillion price tag looms over this plan. Economists project that the effort will cost the US around $930 billion to $1 trillion over a span of 10 years, just for enforcement and deportation procedures. And here's where things get tricky for Canada. As these workers are deported, many of them will likely try to flee northward, seeking refuge across Canadian borders. Why? Because Canada offers relatively more opportunities for asylum seekers. And with its historically welcoming immigration policies, it's the natural escape route. We are talking about millions of people potentially flooding into Canada if Trump moves forward with this plan. The reality is, Canada could face an influx of people it is not fully prepared for. Why it's controversial for Canada? So let's be clear. It's not the immigrants that are the problem. It's what the immigration crisis means for Canadian policies. Trudeau's government has already shown cracks in its immigration approach. A recent poll found that 74% of Canadians want immigration levels reduced, at least temporarily, until housing prices and affordability issues are addressed. Now, let's take that data into perspective. 74% of Canadians want immigration reduced. What does that mean in real terms? Canada's current immigration levels target around 450,000 newcomers per year. But the public outcry means Canada's plan could be altered dramatically. And we have seen some crackdown by Canadian immigration minister in the last few months. Immigration policies might tighten further as the government shifts to meet public demand. But Trump's deportations complicate this further. The mass arrival of undocumented immigrants from the US would not only put more pressure on the housing market, but it would also increase strain on public services. Think healthcare, education, welfare. You name it. Every immigrant adds pressure to an already stressed system. The question on everyone's mind: can Canada manage this influx? Economic and social impact. Let's talk numbers for a second. Canada's GDP grew at a modest 2% in 2023. The last thing the Canadian economy needs is an unpredictable influx of asylum seekers. If you do the math, a 10% increase in immigration levels could lead to a $50 to $60 billion increase in public spending just to keep up with basic services. A sudden surge from Trump's deportation plan could force Canada to quickly scale up its infrastructure without the time or resources to do it effectively. Now, let's zoom in on the job market. Immigrants, including undocumented ones, contribute heavily to industries that are vital to both the US and Canada. Let's take the agriculture sector. In Canada, it accounts for around 2.5% of the GDP and employs around 2.3 million people. If Canada faces a sudden spike in migrant labor demand, the competition for these jobs will intensify. It could drive wages down and ignite tension between local population and newcomers. This leads to another controversial question. Should Canada prioritize local workers over asylum seekers? Some argue that this influx of people will destabilize the job market and inflate an already growing housing crisis. With 9 in 10 Canadians citing housing affordability as a major issue, can the country afford to play the role of global refugee settlement hub at this time? The rising tension, Trump versus Trudeau. Now, let's get into the political dimension. Trump versus Trudeau is not just a headline. It's a real high-stakes diplomatic showdown. As the US hardens its stance on immigration, Canada faces growing pressure. Consider this. Canada's current immigration policies are under fire from the public, with many Canadians feeling that their government is not doing enough to control these numbers. But Trump, with his populist and nationalist approach, will apply more pressure. As Trump ramps up his deportation machine, Canadian leaders will likely find themselves stuck between domestic public opinion and their relationship with the US. One example of this: Tom Homan, the incoming US border czar, has already hinted at potential friction, describing Canada as a threat to US border security. He claims that terrorists could cross into the US via Canada. While these comments are controversial, they reflect an underlying tension that may spill over into the US-Canada relationship. Will Trudeau soften Canada's immigration policy to avoid this conflict? Or will he push back? Will Canada stand firm? So, what is the bottom line? Canada's role in the global immigration system is changing. With Trump's mass deportation plan on the table, Canada's border will likely face challenges they have never seen before. But Canada's leaders cannot afford to buckle under pressure. Canada would need to invest heavily in resources for immigration processing, social services, and border management. Would US pay for it? We are talking billions of dollars. And Canada's existing immigration system is not designed to handle millions of new asylum seekers. It is built to welcome around 300 to 400,000 newcomers per year. That's it. Trump's policies could double or triple that number in a very short period. So, will Canada embrace the challenge and continue to be a beacon of hope for those fleeing persecution? Or will the pressure become too much, forcing Canada to tighten its borders and implement stricter controls? That's the big question. As Trump's mass deportation plan moves from talk to action, Canada is poised to face a border crisis of its own. With growing anti-immigrant sentiments on both sides of the border, the next few years could see profound shifts in North American immigration policies. Canada will need to choose whether it will hold firm to its tradition of welcoming immigrants or succumb to mounting pressures that could fundamentally reshape the country's identity. One thing is for sure, Trump's mass deportation plan will leave no country unaffected, and Canada may be at the epicenter of the storm. So, what do you think? Will Canada hold strong, or will it buckle under the weight of Trump's deportation force? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this fast evolving crisis. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.